Hello and welcome to Oak Road Hatter, where this week I'm joined by Adam Driscoll as usual. And for only the second time this season, we're joined by Stephen Day. How are you doing, Stephen?
Not too bad. Good to be back. How are you?
Yeah, good. We're coming off a win, so it's a good feeling. We'll get straight into talking about that Luton win over Hull City in today's episode, which I'm sure many of you are absolutely thrilled by the game, as we've just discussed off air. But before that, don't forget to check out Oak Road Hatter on socials. That's on Twitter or X, on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. And like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube videos. We really appreciate the support. Or check us out on your audio listening platform. So that's Spotify or those sorts of platforms. And don't forget to check out our line of merch. The giveaway that we were doing is now over, but we'll be announcing the results of that very shortly, I'm sure, in the next week or so. But we've got some exciting new stuff still to come out, and we're sure you'll love it. It could be ideal for a Christmas present for a fellow Hatter. So be sure to check that out. But we'll get straight into it, and we'll talk all things Luton versus Hull City. Stephen, I'll come to you first, and we'll talk just generally about the quality in that game we saw yesterday. It was awful weather. It was windy, and Luton lined up with 4 centre-backs. And it was everything you could expect from a sort of a winter game.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, but I think it's good to see that Rob changed the system. Maybe it wasn't like a drastic change, but you could tell that there was differences. Like some of the time it looked like there was a back 4, sometimes it looked like there was a back 5. Yeah, it was interesting. As you said, the quality really wasn't great, but to be honest with you, getting a win is all that matters, really. When you're sort of in this sort of mode, but yeah, I'm happy to come away with a win. But I don't think I'm going to remember that for a long time.
Yeah, Adam, I saw you at half time. We were discussing the real lack of quality in the game, despite McGuinness's finish actually being a good finish for a defender. It was I don't know what the word to describe it was, but neither team really looked great, and you could see why we both were where we are.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to find a positive word to describe it, then we're going to be here for a while. It was very reflective of the weather, wasn't it? Really, it was just pretty grey and miserable. You could tell that we were watching two teams that had been struggling for wins and for form and for really any sort of quality so far this season. So yeah, as Stephen said, it's not going to go down as a memorable one, but it certainly goes down as an important one for us in terms of getting those 3 points.
And with a defence made up of Burke, McGuinness, Holmes, and Mengi, you could see that set pieces would be crucial for Luton yesterday, as they've been many times before, but particularly with the size of the players we had on the pitch. And it was a set piece goal that decided the game, Stephen. And we'll talk about Mark McGuinness's performance overall in a little bit, but how important were those set pieces? Because we actually got 9 corners during the game, so we actually got more corners than we did shots.
Yeah, you could tell that we were dangerous from them again. It seemed like there'd been a little bit more, or maybe not more preparation with it, but I think with Alfie not playing, it sort of changed it up a little bit. Like, I don't remember there being a corner really that was wasted, and it felt like we were dangerous from each one we got. Yeah, I'm not surprised that we got more corners than shots, because it was a bit drab. Yeah, and as you said, like with 4 centre backs on the pitch and the height that we had, it was important to utilise it, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, just on the corners as well. Even obviously, I think Baptiste was on the majority, but after he was introduced, we saw Walsh take a few from the Kenilworth Road end, and they're really good. I actually really liked the area that he put them in, the pace at which they were delivered. They were more sort of whipped as opposed to floated. It's been a bugbear of mine for a while on our set pieces that a goalkeeper can see it coming a mile off. Although we have been, admittedly we've been dangerous on them, but yeah, really nice to see Walsh with that delivery. And I would, I wouldn't like to see us just revert back to type when Doughty's back. I'd like to see us carry on and mix up, who is taking them and whether they are going to be in swing or out swing.
Yeah, he was a different option. I thought his corner deliveries were more dangerous than Baptiste's. Despite the goal coming from a Baptiste delivery, the way they took them. I think Baptiste was really varying where they were going, but with all the height in the box, there was a clear area of the box that they needed to go in. You mentioned the keepers not being able to do that. Well, keepers being able to deal with a lot of Alfie's corners quite well. I think the whole keeper yesterday would have struggled to deal with any ball that was into the box because he really looked. He looked so unconfident every time a ball came into the box, and even more so when the ball at his feet.
Yeah, he was a bit strange, wasn't he? I mean, it's not like he had much to do all game because, as we touched on, I think they had one or two shots on target, and yeah, obviously they were towards the end of the game, and Kaminsky did pretty well to keep us ahead. But their keeper, I think I can't remember what his name was, but just a bit one of those that comes across a little bit eccentric, and I wouldn't necessarily be relying on him to do the basics over someone like Kaminsky, who's just the amount of times he bails us out, and I wouldn't necessarily bailed us out on Saturday, but I'm pretty sure we'd be a lot worse off this season without him. So he's an absolute gem and definitely someone we need to keep hold of like long term, really.
He did make one absolutely brilliant save with his feet from a shot that was deflected, so it looked like it was going in when he was diving. But yeah, managed to get a foot across and he sent it quite a distance away as well with the save as well, which was good because he was on the dive already. Overall, I think the defence was quite clearly the standout area of the picture. I mean, Hull had 14 shots, but I can't really remember many of them that caused that much of a threat throughout the game. Obviously, we lined up with, difficult to say if it was a back four or a back five with Burke at wing back, but he was on the right with Holmes, McGuinness, and Mengi in the centre back positions, with Mengi slightly more left back. And I thought McGuinness and Mengi in particular were absolutely excellent. Mengi saved us in the first half of a goal line clearance, I believe. And his recovery pace was brilliant. And McGuinness's performance, obviously, the goal aside, the way he dominated in the air and was calm in possession, it was probably one of his best performances, Adam.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was just one of those games that I think he thrives off of, like the conditions, just the physicality and the battle. We've touched before on he's probably not a ball at the feet type defender, and I think the same rules apply to Tom Holmes and maybe a couple of others as well. But he's settled in nicely now. I think, I wouldn't want him in a foot race against someone quick, but he is doing his job, and he's starting to show that he's worth the money that we have spent, and probably will spend as well with those add-ons. So yeah, really impressive from him.
And the finish was excellently taken. It didn't look like someone who hadn't scored for us yet, or someone who plays in defence, Stephen.
Yeah, it was just a really good instinctive finish. I think it was kind of lucky with how it fell and how he sort of fell as well, because it was kind of like on the while it was falling over. So yeah, it was pretty much like a striker's finish. Really, it was taking it on the volley, or somewhat on the volley while falling over. Just I guess fortunate that it was unmarked and the ball does actually go straight to his feet. And yeah, I think when I saw him connect with it, I thought it's a little bit central the keeper was going to get it, but it just smashed the back of the net. And yeah, I'm really happy to have seen him score his first goal, because I think I remember he scored for Cardiff a game or two before joining us. I was thinking that's probably going to add something good for us, having a centre back that can score. So I think we're sort of missing that with Lockyer. Like, he popped up quite a few times, didn't he? So having someone that can sort of not replace that, but just add that extra bit to his game is good.
And he actually did score a second time from another set piece in the second half. Unfortunately, it was disallowed. It was difficult to see why at the time. I think the ball went out from the delivery.
That was my take, yeah.
It wasn't that clear what had happened, but that was a really well taken effort, and I thought that was an even better finish, Adam. So maybe he's been away with Ireland and seen that in that squad he could maybe be the best goal scorer in a squad like Ireland's.
Yeah, definitely. My understanding as well. Obviously, looking to my left, I think the linesman flagged pretty much straight away that it had gone out. Um, so yeah, I wasn't exactly cheering that one, but I mean, we know we need goals. We're not really free scoring at the moment, so if it can be the case that people like him from centre half can chip in, um, whether it's with a head or with the feet as well, we'll take anything, won't we? So yeah, good to see a bit of variety and a centre half on the score sheet as well.
And it's been a very good week for him. Despite the result against England, he did make his senior debut for Ireland and then got his first goal for Luton all in the space of a week. We're going to move forwards a little bit and talk about the midfield because without Jordan Clark there, it was a midfield three of Nakamba, Kraus, and Baptiste, and that's been a midfield that people have been calling out for a little while. Obviously, injuries to some players has caused that to come unstuck a bit. But with those three in there, we actually didn't have much of the ball at all, so we couldn't see what they could do on the ball really. But defensively, they all did, I thought, a very good job. Kraus in particular, he always is the standout player at the moment, and even when he's getting substituted, turning around and trying to get the ground going, it just I think fans love it, don't they? So, um, how pleased were you to see Nakamba back into the side as well, Stephen?
Yeah, it's good to have him back in the side. I don't think he was exactly 100% fit with what's been happening. I think he played. Did he play 2 games or one game like in the international break? Um, so yeah, it was really good to see him back. But I think with the midfield, it didn't exactly seem like it was. It was like a three at sometimes and then a four at sometimes. I think Chong was sort of playing in a left midfield role, but then when we were defending our final third, he was dropping into left wing back or left back, and Mengi was dropping in like central. Um, so it with the midfield, it looked a little bit messy at sometimes because I mean I think we touched on it during the game like that they were just cutting through us like butter again, and that's been a regular thing this season. So I think it was good seeing Nakamba back, but at the same time, like the system just didn't seem to work too well yet. Maybe it will work better going forward once we're more used to it. But it was just hard to tell what position players were because it sort of looked like, as I said about Chong, and then Baptiste was sort of a like a roaming playmaker, but more on the right hand side. Like he was sort of out there, and then sometimes you'd see Burke was further forward than him, and he was sort of just sitting in the field, and then we had no one on the right hand side. Yeah, it was it's good to see Nakamba back, but I didn't really feel like he was properly back because there's still work to do in midfield.
I think for me, it's a midfield like you said, Finn. It's a midfield we've all been crying out to see. Um, it's a midfield I'd like to see us persist with because, in truth, the only way they're going to understand the different roles in that three and what each player is responsible for is by playing together. Um, and yeah, I mean, look, that's my ideal three. I absolutely love Chong, and I've been banging the drum about him. But for the sake of a little bit more control, hopefully that will come with that three if they are playing together. I think it may be the right time that Chong, drops out, and you have that stability, that more defensive minded midfield, just to try and give us that bit more control. I know we talk about possession, and we had what 30 something percent the other day, but ultimately, we haven't conceded, have we? So that might be down to their finishing at times, but if it keeps potentially clean sheets coming, I'd like to see that midfield three persist and just see how solid we can get in the middle.
And we saw Baptiste go off on early in the second half because, I mean, it looked like a knock, but he's obviously been unavailable because of injuries recently, so it might have just been precautionary. And Walsh came on, and for me, he was very impressive, and he really lifted the performance of that midfield and made it much more organised, I think, as well. He held onto the ball really well, which is what I think he does particularly well generally. But I think it just gave us a bit more balance in there as well. I don't know if you felt you were particularly impressed by his performance, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't see a time apart from that one time when he came on and got sent off within 30 seconds where he hasn't come on and made a difference. Like he seems to always make a difference when he comes on. So I think that's sort of going to be his role for us going forward, that he comes in to replace one of those three in the midfield. And yeah, as I said, I've not been disappointed with him at all. Like I remember thinking when we signed him, like, what, I don't really know much about him, but at the same time, like, what does he offer with him being a bit injury prone? Like, is he going to be? He sort of seemed like a bit of like a Jordan Clark type player, but he's definitely giving us something different because, as you said, it seemed a lot more composed on the ball when we had him on, and his distribution as well is brilliant. And he's just exciting to watch as well. Like he can sort of do a bit what Barkley did, like turn players, find a pocket of space to get out and get a pass away, or yeah, and he's also just a bit aggressive as well, like a bit of a terrier type as well, like nipping at people's feet. So yeah, I was pleased with the performance. Happy that he's showing that he was worth signing.
And in that first half, we really lacked width with Burke playing sort of right back, maybe right wing back. It was difficult to judge where he was playing. He was trying hard to get down that right hand side, but he's a big centre back who's had previous injury struggles, and we didn't really have a threat going out wide on that side at all. Second half, obviously he went off with again another player that looked like he had picked up a knock, but it's Burke, so it could be anything as serious as a leg break to nothing at all with him. You just don't know. But we brought in Hashioka, who has impressed recently, and since he's come into that right wing back spot, and I thought he really added to us as well in that game. I thought we looked much better and much more balanced with Walsh and with Hashioka able to link up down that side. And I think, I don't know about you, Adam, but if we're going forward, Hashioka has to start in that right wing back position.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And to be honest, I never thought I'd say that, given what we've seen from him so far. But we've also alluded to the fact that he was thrown into the deep end in the Prem against world class players and out of position. So when you put all those things together, it's a little bit harsh of us to probably have judged him. Certainly me, the way that we have and write him off. So this is certainly his level. He looks comfortable in the championship, which obviously is fantastic. And yeah, I think if we can keep him fit, he does really have to start in that right wing back position, and yeah, ahead of Moses as well, who's a bit of an anomaly at the moment. I'm not really sure quite what we're doing with Victor Moses, but yeah, in answer to your question, Hashioka definitely has to be our starting right wing back.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about Victor Moses there, because he came in straight away, got a goal against Plymouth away, even despite losing the game, and then played a couple more games. And since then, we've not really seen him come on much, if at all. Did he start against Middlesbrough, or did he just come on off the bench? I can't even remember this.
I can't remember. I just feel like with Moses, he wants to be more of a wide forward, and I think we've signed him to be a wide forward in a front three. But obviously, we've reverted back to the two in truth, without that width up front. So really, the position for Moses seems to be right wing back, but I don't think he necessarily wants to be defending and doing that side of it, and we're not fluent enough, or we don't have enough quality at the moment for those wing backs to be 90% focused on going forward. That's probably the reverse, isn't it? And that's what we've seen. So I think until we can get that real control and the wing backs have a lot less pressure defensively, then it's right that he's on the bench, and that we see Hashioka playing.
And before we brought in Moses and Hashioka was back from his injury, we also had Walters there as well, who's much more defensive in terms of what he offers. And you could argue that if all three were fit, maybe Walters would be second choice behind Hashioka or even ahead of him in the pecking order, which puts Moses even further down that. He also got hooked at half time against, was it West Brom, when we drew 1-1. So it's quite clear he's not in favour at the moment. And he's probably only on a year contract, I think. He's a bit older, so maybe Edwards doesn't want to commit to him long term just because of his age and the fact that he's on a short term contract. We'll talk about the result because it's a 1-0 win. I thought we defended really well in the second half as well to keep them out. Although, had we been playing a better side, maybe that wouldn't have been the case. But keeping a clean sheet is absolutely massive, and the result is absolutely huge for Rob Edwards, Stephen. And I think you could see that by his reaction at full time.
Yeah. It is huge, but then in some ways it's not huge because I think I came away from that game probably like many of us did, like relieved that we won, but it was more just relieved. It wasn't excited. It wasn't things of, you can see a clear change from the break that we've implemented a new system and it's working and it is good. Like, because we're sitting here saying we don't really know where some players were properly playing, like with Chong, with Burke, with Baptiste. It's So as I said, it's just more relief because, I mean, looking at the stats, 14 shots from Hull, even though 2 of them were on target and 7 off target and all that, but they had 65% possession pretty much, and that's not something we should be having at home, especially against a team like Hull, which, like, I know we've had jokes about that for years of teams like Luton, but in reality, like, we're better than that. Like, I'd say we are better than that, and it kind of shows where things are at the moment for Rob Edwards, because a 1-0 win is good, but at the same time, the performance wasn't anything special. There was nothing great about it. There was, a few good individual performances, especially from the centre backs, and it was good to have them back. But I'm not dreading Wednesday night, but I'm not exactly looking forward to it either. I'm looking forward to the occasion, but I'm worried because Leeds, we know, can score goals, and you saw the way that we defended. Like, as I think Adam said, like, we were fortunate to not concede. We did well defensively, but then they hit the post. They missed a couple of chances where Striker got into space and had a free header. Did that against Leeds, and we're going to lose 5-0, 5-1. So, for the moment, just relief with that 1-0 win.
I mean, I think the way I look at it at the moment, the 2-week break kind of gave me an opportunity to look at the season and I guess reassess expectations. So it's obviously disappointing towards the end of November when we went into the season optimistic of maybe a top 2 push, but certainly to try and challenge top 6, that we are having to reassess this early, and obviously reassessing on the scale of let's just not be in a relegation battle. And ultimately that is where I am with the season now. I think we're not showing enough. We're not showing any signs that we are going to mount any sort of unbeaten run. I'd love to be proven wrong, and do what we normally do or what we have done from January onwards. But I don't think that is the season. It's going to happen this season, right? So for me, this season is purely about just don't get yourselves in a relegation battle. Stay as near to 12th or 11th or whatever as possible, and I'll be quite content with that. Obviously, with a tinge of disappointment. So, with that in mind, I was quite pleased with a 1-0 win. I'd love to see us dominating the ball, but I think we've tried this earlier in the season and we've been torn apart. I think we've gone back to a more of a trying to be structured. And obviously the clean sheet has helped us on Saturday. So yeah, it's a funny one, but I'm a little bit opposite in the sense that I'm actually quite happy with that 1-0 because it just keeps us away from away from the danger zone, really. I don't know what you think on this, Finn, in terms of like expectations, and have you like adjusted yours as well?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, even when we came down, I wouldn't have said that before the season started. I was confident we were going to finish in the top 6. I was thinking, oh, we should be aiming for it, but realistically, we might miss out on it because of the quality of some of the other teams in the division and just the way we went down as well towards the end. So I would say mid-table would be probably the aim for the end of the season. Top half, hopefully. I think the quality of some of the sides in and around that top 6, top 8 are probably too good to catch in some cases. You saw Middlesbrough score 6 against Oxford yesterday after putting 5 past us. So you can see they're going to be right up there come the end of the season. Obviously, Leeds have just won 4-3 today after, I think, being behind twice in that game as well. So there's some really dangerous teams in the division, and catching them could be quite tough. So I'd say top half would be good, but realistically, mid-table was probably going to be acceptable as well because of how poor the start has been. Unless we can really turn the form around and get in a good run of results, so even a draw against away at Leeds, I think, is a really good result. Not many people go there and actually get anything the last few years. And then Norwich is difficult to judge because they were in brilliant form and now they're slipped up significantly because they've had quite a few injuries and things like that. So, yeah, mid-table top half is probably the most we can expect at the moment. Just wanted to touch on Edwards as well. I think we've said over and over again all season that even after a win, he's looked disappointed. He's looked quite grey in colour. He's looked ill at times, but yesterday he looked more clean cut, and at full time he had a smile on his face, which is the first we've seen of that in absolutely months. And I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on that, Adam.
You love to see it. We spoke pre-pod about how we as a club and how he needed a win in any circumstances, and we got it. So certainly not going to be critical of anything that he did or anything like that on Saturday. I want to see the guy succeed, right? I'd love nothing more than to be proven wrong in terms of saying it's time for a change or, that we need something different. I'd love to be proven wrong and that we do what he did when he first came and take us on a mental run from January onwards and see what we can do, even if that meant we didn't quite make the playoffs because of how we've started. I take that, absolutely take that. And if it cleans the slate and we can move into next season and beyond with him, then absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it was a really really big win for him. I actually made quite a quick exit for other reasons in terms of Saturday, but it's so good to see him happy, and I'd love to see a similar celebration on Wednesday night, even if it is, as Stephen said, getting a point that leads.
Yeah, there's plenty more to talk in the second half of the podcast. So we'll be talking about all things Luton's visit to Leeds United. Plus, we'll be touching on some news that seems to be coming out today regarding Mick Harford and some more support for him. But before that, we'll go into a quick break. Just before we go to a break, don't forget to check out our merch. So that's oakroadhatter.com, and you'll find a royal variety of stuff that we've got. So there's hoodies, there's t-shirts, there's mugs, and there's all sorts being added in the next week or so. So keep an eye out on our socials and check out our website for that. And we're sure they'll make great Christmas presents, even if it's just a present for yourself. But now we're going to go to a quick break. Welcome back to Oak Road Hatter, where I'm still joined by Adam and Stephen, and we're going to look ahead to the trip to Leeds United. And it's a Leeds side in absolutely red-hot form. They are now top of the Championship after 16 games, level on points of Sunderland and Sheffield United, albeit Sheffield United have had a minor points deduction at the start of the season. But when you ask anyone about the Championship and who's the most dangerous side, everyone seems to be saying Leeds. And they won 4-3 today, as we mentioned, despite trailing at least once, potentially twice, if I'm correct in thinking. And it's a side that are not afraid of scoring goals, especially at home. So how much of a threat could they be on Wednesday night, Stephen?
Yeah, I think I alluded to it earlier. I am scared about the threat that they pose. Like, I'm not dreading, as I said, I'm not dreading it. Like, I'm really looking forward to the occasion because, like, doing Leeds away is, one of those things that we dreamt of when we were rising up the leagues and thinking like, oh, we could be playing Leeds, we could be playing, whoever else in the Championship when we're in League One. So yeah, I've been waiting a long time for this because it was ruined by COVID, wasn't it? So, but they they do pose a threat, and I think they've always posed a threat. Like since Bielsa sort of changed them, they've become just a completely erratic side, and it doesn't seem to have changed with anyone that they've got in since. And so it's I think Middlesbrough are the only team to have scored more than them so far now. But the way our defence is, it's a mix of they're dangerous, we're quite leaky, even though we've got the clean sheet. It could be a very interesting Wednesday night for us.
Yeah, we certainly won't dominate possession, I imagine, or probably no, just from the way we play. And we definitely won't have more chances, Adam, because they have got a lot of dangerous attacking players, whether that's Daniel James, who doesn't start that consistently at the moment because they have got other players like Willie Nonto. I can't remember his name. Is it Ramazani, who didn't even play today, but he's been a really key player for them. Manor Solomon, on loan from Tottenham as well, the fact they got him on loan is a big threat because technically he's a Premier League player, although he struggled for minutes at Tottenham, which is fair enough when you're a winger trying to get in past Son. Even up front, they've got Joel Perreault, who is, on his day, a pretty consistent goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, it's frightening wherever you look, isn't it? Like, it's almost like you look at it, it's like a championship elite team. Even Daniel Farker as a manager, I massively rate. And so their budget will reflect what they can afford to bring in and pay players, as you would expect with, 40 whatever thousand they get every week. But it is going to be an insane challenge. Just to add to what Stephen said earlier on, they have scored the second highest after Borough, and there's only 2 teams that have conceded more than we have, and that's Portsmouth and Plymouth. So when you add that into the pot, it could be a very long evening. It's going to be a massive challenge. If we can have the spirit of Nathan Jones and Harry Cornick and that 1-1 during COVID, then I'll be absolutely delighted. I'll be absolutely delighted if someone offers me a point now. But my fear is that it's going to be a long evening, and I don't want to be too pessimistic because we're off the back of a win, but I'd be looking more at damage limitations on that particular game than anything else, I think.
They probably are the only side you look at and go, oh, they could be really, really difficult to beat away from home, just because they are so imperious, and Elland Road is just one of those grounds that a lot of teams go to and they struggle. The atmosphere at Elland Road is usually going to be the best out of many places you travel to in the league. Everyone knows what Leeds fans are like, and I think with the way they're playing as well, the goals they're scoring, it just adds to the animosity in that ground as well. So, I mean, Edwards will have to get his side organised, and I think the best thing he can do is frustrate the crowd, keep them out as long as they can, and then because Leeds fans tend to turn fairly quickly if it's not going their way. So if you can really frustrate those Leeds fans, I think you can potentially get something out of it, and try and catch them either on a counter attack or with the physicality of Morris and Eli. You could potentially build an attack off that on the break. I think you're going, aren't you, Stephen?
Yeah.
So you'll have to. I unfortunately can't make this one, but you'll have to let us know what it's like in the ground in terms of the atmosphere from Leeds fans, and I'm sure the Luton fans that are travelling will make an absolutely brilliant noise because Luton fans always do away from home.
Yeah. It has to be better than Saturday. The atmosphere wasn't great, was it? So yeah, it's got to be a lot better, but at the same time, the occasion will make it better anyway. And I think historically, like maybe this is like speaking about 20 years ago, there's always been I think a lot of older fans will say there's always been a little bit of a thing between Luton and Leeds, but then I think most clubs in England have a little bit of a thing with Leeds, don't they? So I'm excited. I've said that I'm scared, but I'm also excited because it's just I think it's going to be a good evening, no matter what. Maybe not if we come back with like 10 more goals conceded, but yeah.
I think if it was a Marcelo Bielsa team, you'd be more concerned about what they can offer when they're really at it. But Daniel Farker's a bit more pragmatic in the way he approaches games, and I think he'll know that we've got the quality on our side. It's just whether or not we play as well as we've got in us, and we haven't really seen this season apart from that Watford game. I'm going to get you to try and suggest some changes that might come into the side, because just on trying to pick the Luton side at the moment with the way Edwards is moving things around is quite difficult. But Adam, is there anyone you can see coming in and changing from that side that played on the weekend?
Um, no, not really. If I'm honest, because I think you have to go with that same midfield three because it is the most chance we've got of having that frustration and frustrating them and trying to be solid. I think if you start playing around with it and you say, right, when the Canber's coming out, we're going to play Chong. Like Chong, we know is more progressive, but that essentially means you've got Baptiste and Kraus or two in there. That for me just can't happen. I think I could see potentially Hashioka coming in as a proper right wing back to counter the threats of whoever's playing on the left for them because we know they've got countless good wingers. Um, so it's going to need probably someone more suited to right wing back than Burke. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hashi came back in, but otherwise I really wouldn't be making too many changes. I think if Bell by all accounts pulled out of the 11 on Saturday at some point and was set to play, so I can't imagine he's making a turnaround or they're going to risk that. I think if he was, you could argue that he plays as well, but I don't think that's realistic. So yeah, for me, I'd be looking at one change, and it would probably be Hashi in and maybe Holmes out and move Burke to that right side centre half.
Stephen, have you got any changes to Adam's potential lineup there?
For me, it's just about what sort of system we play. Because if we play a similar one to Saturday, then I can't see how we can make any changes, let alone if we do. Like, because that system was a bit weird, and it did seem as if it was more focusing on not conceding rather than scoring. Because it was, as I said, like Chung was dropping into left wing back, and yeah, but I think to shore it up, I'd want someone with more of a defensive mind than Chong to be in that sort of position. So, like, if I was going to be experimental, I'd probably replace Chong with Hashioka because I think having someone that's a little bit more defensively minded is probably a better option if it's going to be when we're defending our third. It's got to be 5 or 6 on that back line, or if you're going to go with 3 at the back and 2 wing backs, then either way, like Chong's either got to move forward like into a full position, like up front with Eli or Morris, or yeah, or he's got to be hooked for Hashi. I can't think of anyone else that I'd want to bring in unless Bell's fit. Then I would go for the 3 at the back and two wing backs with either Hashi or Burke right wing back. Other than that, there's like maybe you hook one of Eli and Morris and have it as Chong with one of them, and you sort of go for longer balls with someone that can sort of play off of them and get in behind Leeds. So yeah, it's a bit of a hard one, but as I said, the system that we played Saturday just doesn't. Again, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like it was hard to figure it out what it was, so it's hard to see what we can change.
Yeah, we'd love to know your thoughts on a potential lineup against Leeds. So let us know in the comments or tweet or at us on Blue Sky or however it works on there. So and let us know your thoughts. That's all a bit new to everyone. So once we work it out how to work it, I'm sure it'll be spot on. But I just wanted to talk about a bit about some news that's come out today, as at the time of recording, so it's Sunday, that Alan Nixon has reported about the club looking for someone to come in and help Harford with the recruitment side of things. Because Adam, we've spoken about the recruitment over the summer and in January on a number of occasions, and I know you feel very strongly about it, which you've mentioned before. So we won't go into details on that. But how important is it, do you think, that the club have actually recognised that there might be an issue with that and they're looking to make a change?
Yeah, I think it's big to acknowledge it. We don't know. I mean, I quite rate Nixon in terms of his success rate in what he says. So I'd like to believe there is truth in it. But if the club are looking for something else or someone to help him, then fair play. I think we've obviously come off the back of a summer where negotiations have been extremely tough. We've not been able to get certain players, and that probably comes down to agent negotiations and us being in a different in a different mindset to what players want and what it's going to take to get them financially. So if we are looking to bring someone in that has a bit more experience of the market, a bit more of an understanding of this might be your budget, Luton, but actually we need to be a bit wiser with this. Like we need to be a bit more open with budget and getting players across the line is the end game. So I'm well on board with that. In terms of like who it might be, I mean, already we know David Pleat is out of a job, let go by Spurs. He's done a very, very good job for a long time at Spurs. The only thing with him, with the greatest of respect, is probably his age. I know he's been around the club quite a lot for the last 3 or 4 months. So whether or not they could use him on a kind of rolling basis and use that experience, that would be probably something that fans older than us would love to see from a nostalgia perspective, and certainly something that I would welcome. And then you need to look longer term in terms of who might be a similar in a similar role. That's obviously a lot younger. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we do have any external appointment on that basis. But yeah, promising and something that I'm definitely on board with.
I think for me with it as well is that I think since Edwards has been in charge, there's I don't know what word to use, because I feel like there almost has been a bit of like failure with the recruitment. Like I wouldn't say it's exactly like everyone we brought in has been wrong and we haven't brought in the right players, but it's just been a bit like the last 2 transfer windows. It's been frustrating, and it feels as if maybe that for nostalgia reasons we've only kept Harford there and kept it with him for just as I said, nostalgia reasons, and because he's done well so far. But it feels like we've not adapted to the change that has happened around us with the situations around us. So I think for me that I would welcome that a lot, because it's something that does need to change. And I wouldn't have said that we've done too bad this summer. Like I can understand that because we've got a little bit more money, we've got bigger expectations and all that, and that it would be harder to get players. But I think there's something that's gone wrong in the last year and a half maybe with recruitment that does need to change.
Yeah, it's certainly a situation that we're potentially lagging behind other clubs in the division in terms of the structure of the club. A lot of clubs you look at now have sporting directors of football, and as far as I'm aware, we don't really have someone in those positions. So maybe, and I know Jamie has a lot to say about that, so I'm sure he'll be able to go more into detail on his thoughts on that at another time. But maybe it's something we need to look at as a club in terms of the hierarchy on the football side of things, because at the moment, as far as I'm aware, it's the board, it's Harford in the head of recruitment role or whatever it is he's doing, and then it's Edwards covering pretty much everything below that, and that's a lot of responsibility for not a lot of people when you look at how many different jobs that is nowadays in terms of the media responsibilities on pitch, off pitch. So you could understand if it's a lot of work for people at the club, and maybe it's something they need to change. But again, Jamie, I know, has a lot to say about that, so we'll have that discussion a bit more detail next time he's on the pod, and I'm sure he's tweeted about it as well. He actually has tweeted about it, so check out what he's had to say on Twitter if you're interested. Before we go, I'm just going to get some score predictions for the trip to Leeds. So, and I know we're not very optimistic about getting a win out of it. So, Stephen, I'm going to come to you first.
1-0 Luton.
And
Wow.
that is something fans would love to see, and I'm sure everyone on social media would love to see a Leeds 1-0 defeat at home. So, are you sticking with 1-0?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, he said it so convincingly that it's impossible to revert from anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, Adam, you've got to try and one up that now.
Well, after everything I said earlier, 1-0 Luton. Easy. Done.
Honestly, if if we go to Elland Road and firstly keep a clean sheet and secondly get a 1-0 win, then you can have my place on every pod for the rest of the season. Because yeah, I was gonna bet you, I was gonna risk some finances then, but I won't because I know what Luton are like. They'll cripple me a month before Christmas. Yeah, in terms of mine, I think. Look, I mean they're free scoring, and we tend to leak a few, don't we? So I do think they'll get a couple at least. I'm going to go for 3-1, a 3-1 defeat. It's just one of those games, you know. We're not going to be anywhere near favourites, are we? It's just one that you probably can accept defeat in, and you just tick it off, and you move on to the next one as quickly as possible.
See, I want to be a bit more optimistic than 3-1, but I have seen Leeds play a couple of times this season, and they do look dangerous. So we're definitely going to concede. I think. I think every team that plays against Leeds concedes at least one, bar maybe one or two. So I'm going to go. I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to be optimistic, but not quite as optimistic as Stephen. And I'm going to say it's going to be a draw, and we're going to frustrate them to a 1-1 draw. We'd love to know your score predictions if you're listening. So again, let us know in the comments or tweet us or at us on social media with your score predictions if you've got something different to us or you agree with us. But that's everything from us today. But before we go, don't forget to check out our merch range on oakroadhatcher.com, where there'll be some more exciting stuff coming out very soon. But from myself, from Stephen and from Adam, thank you very much for listening.